we're creating a technology like nothing we've ever seen before. People compare it to, the Industrial Revolution and the age of the internet. This isn't even in the same ballpark. This is infinitely more powerful. Cliche change is inevitable, but the rate of change and the scale of change that we're about to experience, it's a pivotal moment in our existence. And AI is at the core of that.
Okay, welcome back to the Rabasha Family Podcast. Now, I have a very, very special guest on our World Series. We are with Taz, a CEO, global HR leader. Now, you really, Taz, have built up quite an amazing career from your imagination, doing what you've truly been passionate about. And you really have a simple philosophy, and it's the right people in the right roles with the right support will create successful companies. And we said successful here, but we're talking about billion-dollar companies, communities that can thrive because people have gotten it right, and I love how you've got this, saying of refuse to accept mediocrity, refuse to accept that, unleash the incredible potential that exists within individuals, teams, managers, leaders, and organizations. Because at the end of the day, Taz, you can't have a huge business changing lives without a good team. And you are the person that helps companies do exactly that. So a pleasure to have you on.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here on this wonderful Monday morning.
Yeah, this is what we do. We sit down with entrepreneurs from all around the world and have conversations, questions. And so if you want to have an opportunity to come and be in the hot seat, come and learn and talk and explore ways how you can help and provide value to other people, welcome, and we're going to have a chat.
Looking out the window, and Dubai looks bright and sunny as usual. Nice to see that the weather's a little bit cooler these days, and excited to have this conversation with you. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. So after that introduction, and like you just said yourself there in Dubai, we are looking forward to our World Series, looking at actually the top 50 CEOs when we do come to Dubai. So we're really excited about that. So I'll talk about that and I'll ask you about that later. My first question would be, can you tell us a little bit about your career? I know I gave that introduction. How did you get to that point where you saw a gap in the market and you said, you know what, I can help companies change their bottom line, change their revenue by helping change the people?
Yeah, okay, thanks. So my career, I'll do the really short version, very, very straightforward. I grew up in the UK, in London. I went to university in Manchester, wonderful, wonderful place. My first job after university was in strategy. So I spent 3.5 years building a strategy consulting firm in Sweden, actually. And then I left that, wandered around the world for a while, and then came into the HR world. I had run some HR projects while I was doing strategy. I always thought the area was fascinating. Came back to London, got into HR, and then spent sort of 27 years probably in HR around the world, working for wonderful companies like Microsoft, Philips, Honeywell, Merrill Lynch, Vodafone, a few others. Very, very grateful for my corporate career. But after that period of time, about 4.5, 5 years ago, I decided to leave corporate HR and set up on my own. And that's when I set up Melius Consulting. Where did I see a gap? So, look, I think there are some brilliant HR practitioners around the world. And I think there are people who do HR very well. But in my experience, I've also seen it being done very badly. And I think that's a bit of a tragedy because people spend a lot of time at work. I think it's important that we enjoy our work and do fulfilling work. And I think HR really has the opportunity to create those environments and to empower and enable workforces to get the most from themselves and from work, and thereby making sure that organizations are successful. And when organizations are successful, employees generally tend to be successful as well. And so the cycle continues. Communities become healthier, wealthier, more successful. Families flourish. So I think the role that HR plays is underplayed, underplayed. Yeah, and I think it's very, very important. And I saw there being an opportunity for, just a lot of HR teams around the world to really take this responsibility that's given to them and to do something magical with it. And that's why I created Melius. I think we help our clients to unlock potential at every level of the organization, at an individual level, team level, manager, leader, and organizational level. And that's what gets me out of bed every day.
Awesome. You talk about working in corporate. I think we live in such an amazing time now where what we're seeing a lot in the marketplace is the mid-sized market. The companies who are mid-market, they can still make moves, be very quick. What can they do really right with their HR with fewer numbers? There's not much of a bureaucracy there. So, having someone like you give advice, or what could they do with their HR that can say, hey, we can still compete with the corporates and get to that $1 billion valuation by doing, activities, or what would you suggest that they could do with their team now?
Good question. Yeah. Let me sort of clarify. When I say corporate, I'm not sort of limiting to, large scale enterprise. I include SME there as well. What can they do? I would say the simplest thing is don't overcomplicate. Don't overcomplicate. People generally tend to want very similar things. Stay close to them, talk to them directly. They will tell you precisely what they need. If you're able to provide it, provide it. If you're not, have that conversation. But don't overcomplicate HR. Remain human in all of this. Don't overcomplicate it. I personally don't think HR is complicated. There may be people listening into this or watching this recording who are going to say, "Oh, it's incredibly complicated." Personally, I don't think so. For example, if you want to know how your employees feel, ask them. That you don't need to do a survey, you don't need to do focus groups, you don't need to create unnatural environments. Just ask them if you want to know how they're feeling. If they're frustrated with something, ask them. If they've got ideas, encourage them to share them, and then do something with those ideas. So, don't overcomplicate these things.
Don't overcomplicate it. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So how do you get your team, to enjoy coming to work? You talked a lot about that, even when we spoke before in our meeting, that, how do we get people to come in and enjoy what they do? Is that about recruiting the right people? Or because, how can you tell if someone's just coming just because, of course, they need a job? Or so, yeah, what's the advice on that?
Well, look, I mean, first of all, keep the responsibilities clear, right? Organizations don't own the responsibility for you to enjoy your work. You own that responsibility. Organizations present you with an opportunity to do something, to contribute to their priorities. If those priorities align with yours, you're likely going to enjoy work. If they don't work there. But then don't work there and say, "Oh, the organization has to make me happy." No, that's not the case. Look, let's not be naive as well. Not everybody is going to be in their dream job, right? Some people need to work to get a paycheck, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But be clear, if that's your motive, that's what you're going to work for. But if you are able to find an alignment in what's important to you, the impact you want to make, an industry that you genuinely care about, a cause that you genuinely care about, you're likely to be happier at work. But if you are going somewhere just to make a paycheck, be honest with yourself that that's what you do. Go and make your paycheck and go home happy. But I think it's a false approach to think organizations are there to make me as an employee happy. I don't think that's the case. They should provide good quality work environments, right? They should absolutely provide that. But your happiness is your responsibility, not theirs.
Okay. And in the case of, companies going for that $1 billion valuation, what do the big companies do very well with the HR? What do, like we said, the corporates, what do companies who are scaling and doing really well, what do they do very well?
I think that the best practices I've seen are, again, sort of simplified processes, scalable processes, clear lines of responsibility, clear lines of authority. Everybody's aware what they should and shouldn't do. There is a strong collaboration between folk within the sort of business, let's call it that, because people say HR and the business. I think HR is part of the business, but for the sake of today, um, clear collaboration between HR folk and the business, and I think a decent respect and a healthy respect that this is a group of experts. You know, they are there to share their expertise. They are there to support the organization and the employee. Both can be successful. They are not mutually exclusive. Um, and I think that's what the best HR functions that I've seen. Those are the types of things they do well. Also, increasingly, of course, have very good data, right? Because your data will tell you where you need to focus to make improvements and what have you. I think it's important to have a healthy commitment to continuous improvement and learning. Let's not get stuck just because we do it that way. There are always ways to improve, and I think a culture of continuous improvement is very healthy. So I've seen these in great HR organizations. We are in a period of incredible change, and so the very best HR organizations will embrace that change, recognize their role within that change, and welcome it. There's no point in looking the other way or burying your head in the sand. Very apt for where we are, and hoping the change won't affect you. It will. So again, that sort of very, very healthy curiosity, I guess, to ways to improve, to ways to continually become better, to ways to serve better. These are the types of things I would say are important.
I really like how you said data as well. Like, I was
Mm.
doing some consultancy with a billion-dollar company. They're actually a casino, and that's what they do for their employees. You'd have a survey and ask about, how have you been finding it, and have anonymous surveys. Then they get and have meetings with team members to find out, the new people who just started, what can we do better, what can we change, so it was really the focus on people and just really looking after them. And you could see the way people, like, the food that they have in the can, people enjoyed coming to work. So it's quite powerful. I saw exactly what you just said there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So who are most of the clients that you work with?
So we've been fortunate enough to work within the region with all sorts companies across all sorts of sectors, government and non-government, right from sort of advisory to tech to family businesses which have grown and nurtured in the UAE. So fortunately, we've worked across the board.
Mhm. And what is the main thing that you see that they've been lacking, and what's the business model? Is it on a consultancy basis? Do you come in and, like, how does it work?
Melius, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So we have four main verticals.
Mhm.
We have an executive search business which focuses on sort of mid management and above hiring. We have a leadership development business which focuses on really helping leaders to you know win that next step growth, to continue on the right trajectory, to align and to focus and to really accelerate. We have a learning and development business, which is core training, all custom designed for our customers, depending on their priorities, everything focused on experiential learning. And we have more and more so now we're doing consulting work in AI, which is a fascinating field. And we could probably spend the next however long just talking about AI.
Yes, and this is the perfect segue. I mean, let's talk about it. How perfect timing. How have you seen it, moving into the industries that you're dealing with, and how it's impacting?
So it's in my experience, what I'm seeing, it's still slow. And I think where most organizations are using AI is still quite nascent, quite it hasn't yet tapped into the full potential. What I'm seeing a lot of organizations doing is applying AI to existing processes. And what that's going to do is it'll automate something, it may make something a bit faster. And that's where you'll hear companies saying, well, we haven't really seen the use case of this. We haven't seen the true benefit of this. If you apply AI to existing processes, you're only going to make the gains that those processes will allow. right? I think the very best organizations are making AI their foundation and then building new processes on top of AI. So it's the inverted of what I was previously describing. Now, I think most organizations at this stage are doing the first model. They've got their way of doing business, and then they're applying AI to that and making marginal or incremental gains. But I think the biggest leaps are being made by organizations that are going AI native. So really exploring the potential of what AI can do and then redesigning their processes to sit on top of that vast capability to really make those step or sort of massive changes.
Mm. Wow, and it's really amazing because you can see, for example, in the news of also now companies letting go of quite a lot of staff, right? And with evolution of AI, so having like you said, having those foundation, with AI there, and then building on top of that, how do as you as a CEO manage uncertainty with your team, knowing, hey, because you as a CEO also, you want to cut down costs, and if you can have AI in one of those foundations that can maybe replace the incompetence that you may get with the human, or the being able to take holidays, you have an AI, and you can save on that. How do they navigate around that uncertainty and keeping people calm and still focused on the vision?
It's a huge question. And what I'm going to share now is just my opinion on what I think is going to happen. I spend a lot of time sort of watching videos, reading about the sort of AI, and really listening to the top people within this sphere. So, the people who are designing and building the LLMs, the real sort of the top commentators, and they will all consistently say that even they are unable to accurately predict the future. So
Mm.
what good is my opinion? But I'm
Mhm.
going to share it since it's you and I here.
Mm.
Um, so how do CEOs and leaders navigate the uncertainty?
Because just real quickly, sorry, while
Yeah.
you're in your thoughts, I'm sorry, but while you're in your thoughts, because at the same time, it's like, as a CEO, it's like, if I can cut down a cost with
Oh,
AI, I'm gonna do it. But at the same
absolutely.
time, I'm still gonna need the right people in the right spots to, so they gotta kind of navigate the uncertainty that the team, because you still need people at the end of the day. You're gonna have to, so yeah, just to kind of, for your thought process.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. Look, I think I'd say two things immediately. There's I don't think there are many people in their jobs today who are not fearful of what AI will do to their job. So the uncertainty is very real. Right?
Mhm.
Let's not tell ourselves that no, people feel safe, people feel secure. I think most certainly I can't think of anybody I've spoken to who says, no, 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 my job's completely secure. I'm not worried at all. And I think if they are saying that, it's probably just avoiding what they may truly know to be a reality, an upcoming reality. To
Mm.
your point, I don't think there's a CEO in the world who won't be pushed to drive productivity gains, whether that's through cost reduction or increased productivity. This technology is going to change everything. It already has started.
Mm.
So both factors are absolutely real. There is already uncertainty in the workforce, massive uncertainty in the workforce, and there will be increasing pressure on CEOs and leaders to drive gains. Right? Now, your question was, how do you manage the uncertainty? And the best thing I can come up with is you've got to do it openly. There is no point staying away from this. You might as well talk to your employees and tell them that, yes, things are uncertain, right? We are going to have to redesign our operating models, our team structures, our job definitions.
Mhm.
And this is where I think HR, the future of HR, and I'm not talking long term future, I'm talking about within the next 6 months onwards. This is where I think HR really has an opportunity to step in. Because, in my opinion, every job in every organization will need to be redesigned. and it will need to be redesigned with AI at its core. So let's say, for example, today you're a marketing manager and you've got a 10-person team. In a very short period of time, you could probably do it today, but in a very short period of time, it's likely that that team will be maybe you, maybe 6 AI agents, and another person. Who's driving that transition? Who's leading that transformation? Now, if you are the marketing manager, you may think, well, I've got to run BAU. I've got a business to run. I've got customers, internal or external, to service. So I haven't got time to do that. Plus, I may not have the skills to do that yet. But who is driving that transition, which potentially the CEO is going to be demanding, right? Is, okay, where can we make gains in the marketing department? We can reduce cost by having a smaller team. We can increase productivity by having more AI agents. Who is driving that transition between today and tomorrow? This is where I see HR as a real opportunity. And that's why I'm sort of, as I think about this on an almost daily basis, I'm starting to believe more and more that the chief HR officer role, the CHRO role, or HR leaders have an opportunity to become these transformation agents that every organization will require. In the process, it will require them to learn completely new skills. If you are redesigning a team and 60% of that team will become an AI agent, the skill set you need to design that team is very different to if you were redesigning a team of another 10 people. This is now a different skill set. So there is massive change coming. And I think HR has a real opportunity to step into this change and lead it. Now, whether they do or not, I'm sure some will. Because I think I've spoken to quite a few CHROs around the world, and many of them are saying, yeah, this is the way we're starting to look as well. The CHRO and the CTO will probably be like this. And together they'll be designing the organizations of the future, which will be a combination of human and technology teams. Right? Every job description will change. Every organizational structure will change. Every operating model will change. How we measure performance will change. How we use data will change. What we require from individuals will change. We may need to hire completely new people or reskill the ones that we've got. Now, bringing it down to an individual employee level, yes, your job may well be at risk. Absolutely. But right now, you still have the opportunity to make the changes you need to stay relevant in the future. You should be thinking about what are those changes. You should maybe talk to your HR leader and say, hey, what's the organization of the future going to look like? What's our organization going to look like? What skills are we going to need 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the line? And let me map out my journey to make sure I'm the person with those skills. Absolutely, that opportunity still exists today. But I fear for the people who say, no, my job won't be affected. Because I think that's a one-way ticket to irrelevance. Of course, there are roles which will remain. We see today the most common job, I think, the highest growth job in the US is plumbing, right? Any role which requires manual dexterity is still safe for a few years until robots develop that capability. There will be roles like nurses, for example, where we still value or require the deep human connection, the empathy, everything that makes us so great. Those jobs will absolutely remain. But if you are in an office job, in a corporate job, if most of your work is done behind a computer screen, you should be thinking ahead and thinking, right, my job will need to change. It will change. CEOs will be forced to make the change. How do I stay relevant? And this is very important. And I think HR can really lead this journey.
I mean, what an answer. What an answer. I really find it fascinating though, because like what you were saying there with mixing that human and, having, 6 AI agents, one person, then you have that transition with HR, which is quite fascinating because Now you can have a more an efficient team, more lean, less people. You can have exactly, now it's a transition because now there's certain HR people. If you're good, you can be able to be the one who programs the AI, which could be even easier than people because you're not dealing with so you just got to train it really well. You have your humans who they're managing probably that AI. So leaner teams, less people, but more efficiency. And you said something with the CTO, and even with a quick example. So a quick tell a little story. My assistant, she had an offer to go, go somewhere else. So she was in training mode, and we needed, I'm busy and I need that person, right? And then I started to realize as that gap, I was like, man, there's got to be an AI that can do this. There's got to be an AI that can take my emails, handle all these things. She came back and I said, you know what? And I was seeing a few advertisements as well, AI agents. But I said to her, I said, your job will easily be replaced by AI. So you could do this. You can go and do your research, find some AI tools that you could bring to me and say, Sujira, this does everything that I do. Take my job away. But then now I will employ you to manage that AI. So that type of theme of like, hey guys, what kind of your jobs can be replaced? Go bring an AI tool, bring some suggestions that can do your thing and you can, control it.
I was having a conversation with a TA leader in the region over the weekend. He's a great friend of mine. And we were talking about the future of talent acquisition as well. And it's a very similar conversation. The role of the recruiter is going to completely change. If you look today at what AI can already do, and there is a very strong argument to say it will do it better than humans. And that is, everything from sourcing, outreach, initial assessment, all of the schedule, all of the administration involved in hiring. AI can already do that. We could say very clearly that that's about 60% of a recruiter's job, which means if you think about it at a macro level, the industry will contract. What will remain will be recruiters with a very different skill set. They will be the drivers of transformation. They will be true strategists, and their tools within executing strategy will be part human, part technology. The skill set to be able to do that well is completely different to the skill set a recruiter needs today. So, no, the industry will not disappear. I don't think so. Yes, I believe it will contract because very simply, technology will do 60% of the work more efficiently, more consistently, more accurately, cheaper over the long run. Sure, the industry will contract, but what's left is what interests me. And again, I say to anybody listening, don't sit there thinking your job won't change. It will change. But you don't need to sit there thinking you will be replaced. You have an opportunity to stay relevant still. Take the opportunity. Because if you don't, you will become irrelevant and then you will be replaced by technology. But right now, where we sit today, we're still on that tipping point. And I think next year is going to be fascinating because I think a lot of change will happen next year. We're still at that point of switching over. Because we're there, the opportunity still exists for people to learn the skills to stay relevant in the future. Now's the time. But I think if we were having this conversation at the end of next year, we will be in a very different situation. So yeah, I see it as exciting. I mean, I think HR has a fantastic opportunity. I think everybody has a chance to learn some brilliant new skills to really take this technology on board and to increase their own productivity, but also learn a huge amount of new skills. There's a very interesting future ahead. Be part of it.
And on such a powerful topic, what made you move to Dubai?
Well, Microsoft were kind enough to ask me to come out here. I used to work for them in London, and they were facing some challenges here and asked me if I would come and have a look at it and see if I could fix it. So, like everybody else, at that time, I came for 1 year or 2 years, and 21 years later, here I am still.
So, what's so good about Dubai? Why you stay so long?
Well, it's not the traffic, I'll tell you. No, look, I think there are very few places in the world which has the energy that Dubai does. I'm fortunate to be able to travel around and to see a lot of other places in the world. And Dubai has an excitement, an energy, a desire, a drive, an ambition. It's got the financial capabilities to support that growth and ambition. There's very few places in the world which have the buzz and the energy of this place. And
Wow.
so I think from a business point of view, if you want to try something new, if you want to um, explore new models, if you want to try new things, if you want to work in, yeah, Dubai's a fast-paced culture as well. You don't come here to sort of, well, unless you've made your millions and you want to retire on a villa on the palm, that's absolutely your call. But if you're coming here to work, you've got to be ready to hustle, right? And because of that, things get done. Things get done. Things get done fast. And I like it. I think it's an exciting place to be.
Ah, that's interesting. So it's a place of the sharks are there. It's things are done quicker. Boom, boom,
Things get
boom.
done here. Yeah, things get done here from a building. They'll knock up a skyscraper in 3 months here. I live in a part of the city where they're building new flyovers because obviously the roads are fairly congested at the moment. And almost on a daily basis, when I look out the window, it seems like they've added another 300 meters of road up. Things get done here very quickly.
So let me ask you, especially when we're just talking about AI and the efficiency and where things are going. What do the next 10 years look like for you at
Oh,
Melius, and what's your vision?
I'm gonna take the coward's answer on this and say there's no way I can predict. 10 years, honestly, and answering seriously, what we are creating with AI is going to be so vastly different to anything we've ever seen before that to predict 10 years is near impossible.
Mhm.
Um, what happens when we create a super intelligence? Something that is magnitudes more intelligent than we are, 10,000 times, 100,000 times, a million times smarter than we are. What happens? Well, by its very definition, we can't answer that because if we could answer it, we would be smarter than it. If we could predict what it would do, we would be smarter than it. But we are creating something that's going to be magnitude smarter than the combined intelligence of the entire human race and our history. What happens then? Nobody can answer that. Nobody can answer that. We can hope for the best. And I think the best hope is that we live in a utopian society where all of our needs are taken care of. Everybody has housing, food, maybe even universal basic income. We don't know. And none of us have to work. We can all live to 150 because most diseases are curable. Um, and we can just be the best versions of ourselves. We can spend time in community and in friendships and nurturing each other and sitting around fireplaces and having wonderful conversations about who knows what and time reading and creating music. And I don't know. That's the utopian answer.
Mm.
I truly hope that's where we end up.
Mm.
But there are other answers as well.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the best way to start a week. It's Monday morning.
So actually speaking on that and speaking on the future, so we have a lot of some of our clients in private equity, they acquire a lot of companies, and some of our guests are in private equity venture capital. And a lot of the times when they talk to me and we look at pitches, the number one thing, and this is why it was so important having you, is they say is the people. If we invest in a company, acquire a company, it's do they have the right people? So that's why obviously even your business model will be quite powerful. You may actually not have to answer this question if you don't want to, but are you also looking for investors into what you're doing? Because as I said, that's a very it's clear, like in the industry that you're in, that industry will always be required. But to have a good operator like yourself, is that something that you've looked into the vision? Okay, do I need investors? How do you want to scale your own company at the moment?
Honestly speaking, at this stage, I haven't gone down the investor route, but that's not saying I'm not open to having those discussions.
Mm.
Um, I think it's always been about people, hasn't it? This is not a new phenomenon. So
Mm.
the BVC companies you're talking about now, they've always one of their key criteria when they look to invest is the quality of the people. The vision of the leader or the founder or the CEO, the team that they have within them, underneath them. It's always been about the people. You can have the best technology, but if nobody's interested in using it, you may as well throw it away. You can have wonderful processes, but if nobody wants to follow them, or if it doesn't make intrinsic sense, you might as well redesign. It's always been about people. Organizations are just collections of human beings, right? And then you throw a product in, and you throw some processes and some financing, and you get an organization. But people are core always, and that means organizations that have succeeded, yes, oftentimes have a brilliant product and innovation, what have you, but it's the people that created those innovations, those products, those step changes, right? Similarly, organizations that are struggling, you'll often hear, the leaders, the managers, the CEOs saying, our challenges are our culture. Well, culture is what people create, right? It's performance, it's individuals. It's so the good and the bad always ultimately it comes down to people. They are the most fascinating asset to try and manage, to try and lead, to try and inspire, to try and engage. If a piece of technology is not working, you can change it very simply. If somebody is not working within the organization, the process of changing, it's a little bit more complicated. If culture is not working, it's infinitely complicated to try and change that. So it's always been about people. And I think even as we move forward and more work gets done by technology, there will still be a huge role that people play within organizations. And I think the successful organizations of the future, the metas that haven't been created yet, will still have people will still play a very important role in the success of those businesses.
Yeah, and that's why again we have people like you here and speaking passionately about it. So as we now get to the end, towards the end of the episode, I like to play a game, and that game is I will say one word, and then you got to say what in one word, what word comes to your mind, right?
Playing word association.
Yeah, word association. Love
All
it.
right.
Okay, so CEO.
Leader.
Ooh, explain.
Oh, well, I think the CEO of an organization leads the organization. They set the tone, they set the culture, they set the right behaviors. Every aspect.
Human resources.
Opportunity.
Ooh, I like that. Explain.
Well, as we were discussing earlier, when I think about HR, I think HR sits at the cusp of an enormous opportunity, perhaps the biggest it's ever had, and that is to lead the inevitable change that's coming. And so when I think HR today, the first thing I think about is great opportunity.
Great opportunity. I think that's actually been the biggest learning lesson, even for me, the biggest takeaway that transition now HR, the opportunity they have to see, okay, there's going to be a change in the way we do things. I love it. This is one that I like, actually, interesting one, Dubai.
Opportunity.
Yeah.
Let's not use the same word. Let's use excitement.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's an exciting place to be.
Mhm. AI.
Change.
Explain.
Did you say explain? Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's going to change. Everything's going to change. We're creating a technology like nothing we've ever seen before. And people compare it to, the Industrial Revolution and the age of the internet. This isn't even in the same ballpark. This is infinitely more powerful. And so change, cliche, change is inevitable, but the rate of change and the scale of change that we're about to experience, it's a pivotal moment in our existence. And AI is at the core of that.
Money.
Necessary.
Explain.
Well, as simple as that. I mean, at the very basic level, we need money to survive right now. Maybe one day we won't, but right now we do.
We do. Business.
Uh, Well, the first word that came into my mind is transaction, but I don't like that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Business. I don't know. Well, I'll stick with the word because you said the first word, so transaction. But yeah, okay.
It's interesting because at the core it is a transaction, but it's like a transaction of value because one person, well, if you're it's a good business, one person gets the
Yes, it
value.
should be. Yeah.
So
Yes.
it's transaction, but like yeah. I like that. And Fortune 500.
First word that comes to mind.
Yeah,
Fortune 500. Companies.
companies.
Yeah. Very
Awesome.
thoughtful.
Well, yeah, that was an interesting one. But Taz, thank you so much for coming on. I really, it's crazy because time just flies by. Like you just, when I'm in this seat, it just flies. Especially when you have someone so passionate like yourself. And to be honest, I'm really excited. I just keep thinking about the AI and the
Yeah.
just where we're going. Right? It's and really to sum it all up, like from a lot of the things you were saying, I really believe we're coming into the day and age of competence. Like, who is competent enough to get the job done? Yes, exactly. AI is not going to replace you, but it will replace the incompetence, right?
Yeah.
Which is a good thing for the business owners, and it's maybe not the best thing for the people who are complacent. Because if you're good at your job and you're passionate about your job, you'll be able to find a role exactly where you can either control the AI or that human creativity and intelligence will never be replaced. So
I
that's why I
agree.
really love what you've
I
said
agree.
here today.
I agree. Listen, man, it was a pleasure. And you were talking about how fast time goes. I can't. It was only a couple of days ago. I think I reached out to you, and I'm like, oh God, like is our talk next Monday? Because I can't believe we're already at the end of November. But thank you again to you. Your team have been incredible through this whole sort of organizing all of this. Thanks for the invitation. It's been a pleasure. I hope it's been useful to the listeners. Some really interesting questions and some topics we covered there.
Mhm.
Thanks for having me on.
No worries, no worries. Really appreciate it, Taz, and yeah, looking forward to seeing you more.
All right. Have a great week ahead.
You
Thanks a
too.
lot.
If you really enjoyed this video, make sure to click here, and I'm sure you're going to love that one.